Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I am Daniel Acutt. I'm the founder of All Things Business Guy, Teamer app, as well as obviously the Trusted Sales Academy. So if you've watched some of our podcasts, thank you for coming back and thank you for being here and subscribing. And please don't forget to share, because there's going to be some great quotes, some great tips, some great recommendations and things like that that you can use today in your life and your business, or even, maybe help someone around you. Remember, it only takes one person to make a difference. So hit share, hit subscribe, and we look forward to, helping you on this journey as well. But enough about that. I want to share a bit more about what we do. So the mission behind All Things Business Guy is that what we know is that over 70% of people hate their jobs. And this is a shocking statistic because most people are going to work every day really just like in this disillusion and hating this experience. So what happens is that affects people's personal lives as well, and obviously affecting business and business results too. We also know that over 60% of students in their first year of college change career choice. So there is no clear support and guidance that people have to be able to build this. But this podcast is not about me. This is about interviewing some amazing people that are doing extraordinary things. I kind of feel it's so funny, and I feel awkward saying ordinary, but that's kind of the tagline anyway, that it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things. All of us are ordinary. None of us are can I say out of this world, but we're doing some extraordinary things. And I've got the amazing Julia Felton here today. Hi, Julia.
Hey, Danny. So nice to see you.
Thank you so much for being here. I mean, we've been friends for
Thank you.
9 years or something, like such a long time.
Something like that. Too long.
Oh my God. We've worked together, we've traveled together, we've laughed together, we've dined together, we've done a lot. There's a lot of but Julia, tell me in a brilliant way. Okay, let's jump straight in. Like, tell me in a brilliant way who you are, what do you do?
Oh, wow. Well, thanks, Danny. And thank you so much for inviting me on here today. I'm so delighted to be here. So I'm Julia Felton. I'm the founder of Business Horsepower, and I'm a leadership and team development specialist. So I focus on working with people to help them unleash the hidden potential in the people within their team and really harness that energy, because I believe that teamwork is this secret competitive advantage that all businesses have access to if we can get all of our people pulling together in the same direction. And Danny, you and I were talking just before we came on about, the ecosystem. And I'm really passionate that there is so much we can learn about business from nature. And nature's this perfect ecosystem. Yeah. And business is also an ecosystem, but we just don't always get it right in business. In nature, there's no wasted time, energy, or resources. And yet in business, goodness me, you and I have both seen how much wasted time, energy, and resources that can happen through siloed mentalities, people not working and cooperating together. So I'm on a journey and a mission to help people understand that there's so many lessons we can learn from nature that can make our businesses more effective for everybody.
Yeah. And Lao Tzu said exactly the quote, which was, in nature, nothing is rushed, but everything is accomplished. And we think about the day, the days that we run at the moment with work and with travel and with, when I say travel, I don't mean fun travel like everybody's doing on social media. I mean, like traveling to work. I mean, that's basically 20% of your day is going to getting to and from work. And then another 60% of your day is, actually working. And then whatever's left over is kind of for you to decide what you want to do, in your life. And this is why, this leads me to this point about, what's so interesting is that if we can influence how people feel at work and how they are happy at work, that's going to make their home lives better as well.
Oh God, yeah.
But what do you know about this? So tell me about your thought with this quote that we have, or our mission, which is that, over 70% of people hate their jobs. I mean, you're working with big corporates, you're working with entrepreneurs, you're working with teams, individuals. Like, what's been the general consensus with this?
It's an absolutely shocking statistic, isn't it? That 70% of people hate their job. And yet, kind of I'm surprised and not surprised at the same time, because I was really fortunate. I really love my job in corporate. I love my job now. And there's only one point for about 6 months during my career that I ever worked in a job that I really hated. So I find it just incredible that people stay in roles that they don't like, but understandable, particularly in this economic climate where people have got a fear of change, fear of doing something different. So we put up with what's not great. But I'm a massive proponent of what you talked about there, Danny. I call it the ripple effect, right? Where we go home from work, and if we've had a crappy day at work and we're not feeling great, then we're mean to our spouse or partner and our kids, and we create this negative ripple. How great would it be that we come back from work, we're in a great frame of mind, and now we're really nice to the people around us and we create this positive ripple?
Yeah.
So I think there is a real obligation as well on us as employers to create an environment where people want to come to work and they enjoy being at work. You know, we know the Gallup stats. I was looking at them before we just came on the show. You know, only 10% of people fully engaged at work. 14% of people actively disengaged. Those are the people sabotaging your business, right? They don't even want to be there. I love this analogy of a boat, you know, and you've got somebody at the back and they've literally got the anchor down, thrown it down, and there's no way. It doesn't matter how fast you paddle at the front, you're not going anywhere. You're just going round and round in circles. And probably if we look at businesses, that's a pretty good analogy for what's happening. Most businesses not really moving forward because these people that are staying in roles that they don't really want to be in are just stopping any type of momentum.
Yeah.
So yeah, as business owners, I think, and business leaders, we've got a responsibility to help those people find the right role they want to be in where they can flourish, because it's not great for them and it's definitely not great for the business if they stay there.
But this is the problem, is that the business leaders are have this kind of conception that they, you know, because they pay people salaries, that's the end of their commitment to, you know, to their team. You know, it's like, you're getting paid, you know, go and do the job. But I love what you're talking about with the anchor. So there was a video that I watched the other day, which is you know, it's a funny video, it's a funny meme, but it's such a true reflection, where there's this builder building a wall, you know, kind of landscape. He's going this way, and then there's a person passing him bricks to build that wall, and they, you know, they kind of bigger blocks. And you go, oh, okay, that's great. You know, you can see that there's a support structure in place. But when you expand the video, he's actually picking up the bricks that the guys put down and handing them back to him. And it's kind of like, you know, it's such a misconception that, you know, business feels like it's moving forward, but then is it really? So how do you kind of advise people in terms of, you know, measuring progress, I can say, with team or in business? Like, what are your kind of biggest tips there?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the fundamentals of how we set it up in the first place. We know that purpose is really important. People are only going to get engaged and pull behind us and come with us if they understand why they're there and what their contribution is. So I think the way that I measure success in a business is if everyone on your team understands why they're in the business and what they're doing and what they're contributing, because then that's what makes them feel valued. And often we've got people that are in the wrong companies. They just took a job because they could get a job at that company, but it's not aligned with them. And, you know, you and I, Danny, are both familiar with wealth dynamics, and, you know, we're probably going to delve into that a little bit deeper on later on. But when you're, you know, if you're in an organization that thwarts your creativity, if that's what your zone of genius is, then you're never going to enjoy being there. So there's something for me about organizations being a lot more ruthless and only hiring the right type of people that they need in their organization, that are culturally aligned with it, but also people that have the right skills for they need at the right time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's a, you know, a friend of mine who runs a substantial company, and one of the things that, you know, he said to me was that he really feels that in his business, when people are getting promoted, there's so much bias happening as well. So there's so many, you know, people are hiring their friends, or they engaging with people that they like and get on with, and he's like, but this is like so against everything that I stand for, but I have no way to measure this or no way to kind of improve this. And this leads into kind of what, you know, what we are building in Teamer app, because the Teamer app, you know, which we're launching in July, by the way, I know that's, you didn't know that, but we're launching very soon. The whole concept of it is really about measuring one's happiness score, and that's built up with 10 individual success metrics. they're obviously confidential. They are, the business leader or the team leader can really only see the overall result. So there's no bias, there's no victimization, there's nothing that can take place there. And I'll talk about profiling as well in a bit, but what do you think, do you think this would be really valuable for business leaders to be able to, I don't know what's going on within their teams without people feeling like they can be a target?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole concept of psychological safety, a massive, massive issue that's being talked about at the moment at work. And I think there's a lot of challenges going on because leaders don't know how to create that psychological safety. So people don't feel like they can speak up and say what's going on. So to have a way where leaders can get some insights without people feeling threatened and what's the word I want to use? Yeah, threatened and I almost want to use victimized, and that's maybe not quite the right word, but for exactly the reason, we see that so many organizations don't have this great lack of diversity because we naturally incline to hire people like us, like you said, hire your friends, hire your relatives, whatever it is, because we want to support the people in our sphere of influence, for example. But that's not necessarily the best thing for the business. We need to hire people that need the right skills at the right time within the business. So if we can figure that out beforehand with different profiling tools and information, and also just by getting to know our team members and know what drives them. Because you might have somebody on your team that's just is amazing, but they're in completely the wrong role. And you have a conversation with them and you find out that they really want to be an IT programmer, but then maybe they're in your customer service, kind of random example. Maybe we can move them to a different job. There's a job they're going to thrive in, but we didn't know that because we didn't take time to get to know them and what their personal aspirations were. So there is an onus on us as business leaders to make sure we know what are the drivers and the dynamics of each of our team members so that we can create this environment in which everyone can thrive.
I really love that because, if you think about it, if that poor person is then being reviewed on their performance as a customer service agent, the customer reviews are going to be like, did the person solve my problem? Yes. Were they nice to talk to? Probably not. Were they nice to engage? Probably not. But then again, if they, did do something that was in their natural flow or was more, setting them up for success, as you talk about, you can just let people thrive. But I really have this question because, there's this thought process about skill set. If you are putting somebody that's got the right profile in the right position, you're already kind of 60, 70% there. What about, like, how important is it that those people actually have the skills at that moment to do the job, or are they going to just kind of work it out because it's their natural flow?
So
how's that for
I am yeah, no, I absolutely get it. And I think this is a big problem. We're still hiring for skills. And I get that at one level. But if we look at business and what's going on, we live in this VUCA world. Everything is changing and changing so rapidly. The latest stats from a PwC report said that 45% of CEOs think their business needs to fundamentally reinvent within the next 3 to 5 years. So it means that the skills that people have today aren't the skills they're going to need in a few years' time. When you and I were at university, Danny, and back in those days of education, who knew about Facebook? It didn't even exist, right? So the problem is
when I was at university. I think it was 2007. And it was like 6 months. Everyone had Facebook, and I was like, I don't need a Facebook. Like, this is, that's why I started All Things Business Guy, because, when people say, oh, you really, you have so much to say, and we really trust, your voice, and we trust, what you're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, but I really am so disconnected with me as an individual and me trying to be this big brand. And then starting All Things Business Guy allows me to contribute towards something that's purposeful and that maybe can grow into having other people host, conversations, etc., as we go forward. So I'm sorry to interrupt you at that moment, but I mean,
no.
You're 100% right that things are changing, and everyone kind of got to their Facebook point. It's like, wow, there's this big one change. But the reality is that this is happening everywhere. It's not just Facebook that's changed things.
Oh, good. Yeah. Everything. Yeah, absolutely. Everything's changing. The way we communicate, the way we work, the way we lead and motivate people, everything's changing. in the environment. You know, we only have to see recently the impact of AI and how that's fundamentally changing absolutely everything for everybody. So to answer your question, you know, skills, yeah, are important, but I think it's more important to hire people and get people on board that are adaptable and flexible and willing to learn, because those are the people that are going to thrive in the organization, because the skills are going to get depleted over time, and we're going to need different skills to operate in this dynamic environment in which we live.
I mean, do you think there's a connection between ownership and this conversation? So, for example, if you hire someone that can do the job, do they have as much ownership as if they, you know, compared to if they actually learned how to do the skills and owned it in their space? I was like, you know, it's such an interesting thought process, because if somebody comes to the job, it's like, I've got this skill, I'm doing this job, you know, it's X, Y, and Z. But if you're coming in and learning something and you're growing in that space, how likely do you think people are more inclined to own that responsibility more?
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that, but definitely, I would definitely say that. And when we look at millennials, they all, no, millennials and even Gen Z, they all want to work in organizations where they're growing and developing and learning. So I think if as business leaders, I think there's a real requirement for us to create that environment where people continue to learn. And it's the smart thing to do for our business as well, because that's what's going to keep us at the forefront of the latest advent in technology and changes, because we don't want to become the next Kodak or, you know, Blockbuster or some, you know, Nokia, a company that hasn't moved with the times, and we just stick with where we were.
And then,
so, you know,
and then on the other side, you've got companies like, you know, and I agree with you, those companies basically did nothing and just went into the ground, billion-dollar companies. And then you've got companies like BlackBerry, that obviously, you know, was kind of the first in the industry in smartphones. And all it took was 48 hours of lack of, you know, connectivity. And I remember it because I was there and I had lost.
Yeah, me too.
And everyone was so angry because there was such a reliance on it. And it kind of opened up the space for other companies to make it easier when they have downtime. You know, now there's such a trust. I don't know if trust is the right word, but there's such a reliance on Facebook and on WhatsApp. I mean, WhatsApp a few times has gone down. Did it lose market share? No, nothing has lost market share. You know, so how did, in your opinion, like, how do you think companies like BlackBerry dropped off? And then you have companies like WhatsApp, which is obviously a part of Meta and all that kind of ecosystem. You know, is it because they've got enough market share or enough influence in the market to allow them to continue?
There's probably a piece of that. You know, there's market domination there. You know, what would we all do? You know, we all use WhatsApp, or a lot of people do, and I guess we just tolerate. We've become a bit more understanding that sometimes technology does go down. Do people get frustrated? Absolutely. Do they do probably a better job than BlackBerry did in the day about communicating and explaining it's down and, you know, letting people know? If I seem to remember BlackBerry, it kind of happened and people didn't really know what was going on. So I think there's perhaps more improved communication and letting people know. So people are like, yeah, we're frustrated, but we also have, of course, more channels now. So if WhatsApp's down, you could use Facebook Messenger, you could use Twitter, whatever other platform, you know, other platforms are available, right? As you need to say.
So the frustration was accelerated because there was no alternative at the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to talk about you for a bit. So as we mentioned earlier, I've known you for many years. I've been out to your farm. Your company is called Business Horsepower. The reason it's called Business Horsepower is because you use horses to teach leadership and to train and to you know, work with to show humans basically that trust is built on a lot more things than just what you say. Tell me, like, because it's very unique. I mean, we know I've been writing since I was very young, but like, where did you kind of find this niche or find this focus in the market for yourself?
Yeah. So thank you for asking. So totally by coincidence, there's so many things happen in life. You just stumble across it.
There we go.
Yeah. So I didn't even know. So as you know, I worked in corporate land for a long time, and when I sold the business unit that I had created, I then set up my own business, and I then sort of discovered a bit more about personal development and got into the whole leadership development and coaching. And then I met somebody who did leadership development with horses. I didn't even know existed. Horses had always been a passion of mine, and I was like, wow, what a great way that I can combine all of my corporate experience with my passion for horses and being outdoors. And what I realized reflecting on my life at that point was actually my horses had taught me my best business lessons, but I hadn't learned them at the time because I didn't have the manual to understand. And I always share a very funny story where for one whole summer, I couldn't catch my horse Toby. Every time I went to the field, he ran away. I tried to bribe him with the best, organic carrots with big green tops and everything. It still didn't work. And what I learned afterwards on reflection was I walked into that field at the weekend because I was working in London. So I only ever saw him at the weekend, in this strided in, and it was all about me. Yeah, it was all about me. It was all about my agenda. There was no get to know him. What does he want? How he's feeling today? And he was looking at you and me and going, who are you? What do you want? Am I interested in interacting? And all the answers to that were no every weekend. Because I was so egocentric, it was all about me. And interestingly, my energy was really scary and really big, and reflecting back on it at the time, my team thought the same thing. My team thought I was scary and intimidating. My horse was just a lot more ruthless about giving me that feedback by running away. Whereas my team didn't tell me, and it was way after that event that I discovered that that's how my team felt. But I was just really driven at work and really focused, and didn't realize this ripple impact I was giving out from my energy was actually really intimidating to people.
Wow.
They saw me as scary, and you've known me for Danny long enough. I'm not really a scary person at all. But it's interesting how our energy has such a big impact on everything around us, and most of us are just oblivious to that. So the horses are great energy barometers, feeding us back to us how we're showing up and how we need to build connection, to build trust in relationships, and spend time building those relationships, because we know relationships are the things that drive business.
Yeah.
And most of
everything, right? They drive everything. So, I mean,
yeah.
that's I've never heard that story before. So thank you. After 9 years, that's the first time you've shared that story, to everyone following me. So thank you for sharing. But it's so, it was really reflective, because I think that, maybe if you're listening to this, think about a time where you've been, in an environment where people are moving away from you, or animals are moving away from you, or you're sitting on the couch and your dog is choosing to lie with you or lie away from you. And what energy, reflect on yourself and see what energy you're actually putting out there, because this is energy based, right? This is very much energy based. This is very much like, what energy you put out there, comes, is going to reflect on it. And, a lot of people talk about, whatever you put out, you get back. And it's very interesting, because I want to ask you this question, what is the, if you're a person sitting at home and you're looking at your dog and your dog's sitting all the way over there, or cats are expected to do that, right? But they do still come over and sit with you. But what would you say is the first step that people could take today to be more conscious of this? Because that's step one, right?
Yeah. Step one. Well, I think step one is awareness. It's like with everything, isn't it? We need to be aware that we impact everyone with our energy, and it's this invisible field we've got around us. And just going back to that 70% of people who hate work, what field are they putting out? A negative energy field around them. So how does that accumulate for a company? Interesting thought for another day. But the first part is go on.
No, I was going to say, what are those people doing? They're getting to work on 9 o'clock on the dot. They're going into the coffee room and spending half an hour there complaining with other people. The productivity of this is very low. And it kind of, the thought process started with me when I kept going to I'm going to talk about some big brands, but it's a very clear indication where this is. And next time you're in Tesco, for example, you don't get this in M&S, but every time you go to Tesco, walk down the aisles, and whenever you see two staff members standing with each other, all you hear is they're complaining about processes and systems, and I can't take this holiday and this, and you go to M&S and you hear two people talking, all they're talking about is the customer and the experience. And I don't know I have no idea the difference in how they run their businesses. Maybe Tesco is designed or targeted at a certain target market that they've got to, put people doing things that they hate so they can pay them as cheaply as possible just to get A to be done, because they're controlling their environment, which is price point, right? And M&S is all about experience, because are you more likely to pick thing to buy on that last line, when you're queuing at the till? Are you more likely to add more things to your basket at an M&S compared to a Tesco because of the way that you feel or you experience that store? And for me, reflecting back on this now, I'm like, absolutely, I can't wait to add more things to my basket at M&S. And at Tesco, I want to get out there. I'm sorry, Tesco, like I'm going to get an email for sure, but but I can't wait to get out the store. What's your experience in terms of kind of employees showing up to work and getting them to be productive? Because I guess as a business owner, all people want to do is they just want you to do your job, right? And so from that aspect, like, I want to know what your opinion is on this.
Oh,
without getting yourself into trouble. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah. How do we get people to do the job? You see, I'd still go back to what I said before. I think it's about us as a business owner figuring out what the right roles for those people are, because all the time that they stay around, they're exuding this negative energy, like you've just talked about, that you experienced in that large grocery store, and and they don't want to be there. But the customers can feel it too. I mean, I think this is the thing: is everyone can feel it, even though we don't know that they can. So to partly answer your question previously, is what can people do? I think the first point is to realize and have this awareness that we can create negative energy around us. And then one of my favorite things to do is actually do some deep breathing, some box breathing. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. Because we've got to change our energy. We've got to shift our energy. I'm really consciously breathing. And really getting into the present moment is a great way to do that. Sometimes if it's possible, I love, before this podcast, actually, Danny, I was out walking in nature, because that's something that gets me really grounded. I suck up the great vibes from being out in nature. So whenever we're in a situation where we don't like the energy, we've got to change the environment. We've got to do something different. And whether it's changing our physical environment by breathing differently, or actually physically going to a different environment, like going out into the wood or out into nature, all of that just shifts the dynamic. But it comes first of all from the awareness, and then amplifying that awareness and going, okay, that's what happens. I recognize that. Now I can take action. So you've got a 3-step process. You become aware of it, then you amplify your reaction to that, and then you take action and do something different. Because only by doing something different, you're going to get a different result.
I'm even going to go as far as to say, if you had a team that was dealing with customer complaints, and you called them the customer complaints team, or complaints department, I mean, the energy itself just is like, it's going to be, but if you turn that into, the customer happiness department, for example, I mean, where do you work? I work in the complaints department. Oh, that must be really disappointing and sad and horrible, and you just deal with problems all the time. But if I work in the customer turnaround department, like, how cool is that? Just like my job is to make sure that people have a great experience. Because the difference, for example, in going to a store and someone dealing with a return compared to someone dealing a return and then getting me to buy something else on the way out is the whole different, approach and different. And that's what we do in the Trusted Sales Academy, right? So in the Trusted Sales Academy, we focus on kind of the point where people have customers, or they have leads and they have qualified leads, but how do they take those people and then magnify what those people spend with them? So increasing trust, increasing engagement, and increasing, return. The reason I mention that is because I think it's so valuable, because there's this thought process about, oh, no, I don't want people to, I don't want to push people, whatever, but you need to create the environment, you need to create the space for people to buy more. That's why you know, if I think about it as a comparison as well between those two large stores, you know, the M&S checkout is at the back of the store and the Tesco checkout is at the front of the store. Like, why, why do they put that there? Every time I leave the store, I go, in my mind, I'm like, it's so easy to steal something on the way out. Like, it's so, I don't, by the way, because they have cameras everywhere. Doing that for anyone. Also, that's, you know, not the right thing to do. But, you know, it's kind of interesting because that thought process in itself is like, I trust you. Yeah. If you take something that's, you know, we'll catch you probably, but, you know, we trust you. We trust you to pay for your stuff and then leave the store. And Tesco is almost like, you know, we're controlling the exit, you know, to make sure everyone pays for everything, you know. So it's such a different mindset. And hopefully Tesco will reach out to me and I'll get a nice contract to work with them, but we'll see. We'll do that together. So what do you think?
Yeah, but I think you make a really great point about the importance of language. Language is so important, and yet we don't really focus on it enough. And like you said, you know, the vibration of, you know, customer complaints, just even saying it is really, or the customer happiness, you know, immediately your energy goes up. And, you know, think about Zappos, you know, what's their philosophy, you know, to wow people. They've got one of the places where everybody's queuing up to work and wants to work there. But, you know, Zappos really understand the power of having the right people in the organization, because what they do and what I've heard is that, you know, they hire somebody in and after 30 days, they pay that person to leave if they're not the right person. They understand the power of what John Maxwell calls the bad apple. If you have somebody in your organization or people in your organization that don't want to be there, they're like a rotting apple and it just spreads to everybody else. So pay them, get rid of them. That's actually much more cost effective. And from my own experience, I hired somebody into a team when I was in corporate. Technically, to go back to skills, amazing skills, exactly what I needed in the team at that time, Danny. But culturally, not a good fit. My gut instinct wasn't to hire them, but my brain said, oh no, they've got incredible skills. I kept trying to make it work for them for nearly a year until my team said, if you don't get rid of them, we're all leaving. That was a big wake-up call about the impact one person was having on the whole team and how detrimental it was. So totally beneficial. And I think as business owners and leaders, we need to be braver about identifying these people. Unfortunately, at 70%, right? that aren't in the right roles. And maybe, like we said earlier on, it's just a question of moving them to a different role, giving them some different responsibilities. But I think we've got a responsibility to move them on to somewhere where they can be happy.
I love that.
For everyone's benefit.
That point is so valuable. It's like, you know, as a business owner, it's like, you know, oh, I feel sorry for them. No, like give them the opportunity to go find a place where they fit in and are happier and will go through that process. So, you know, there's this concept we talk about generally in business, which is, you know, hire slow, fire fast kind of concept. And you don't have a choice, basically. You've got to hire slow because it takes a long time and it's expensive and you've got to go through all these different things. But you know, one of the kind of the feedback when we're doing research on Teamer app with different business owners and potential customers was that one of the feedback was that, you know, when they recruit people, they do narrow down the recruitment process to like the top 3 candidates based on skill. Just number 1 is skill first. And then they profile. So they do profile. So companies do profile people because it just helps you to see where they kind of stand. But what they said to me was that, you know, they then hire the best fit at that moment. And even if all 3 are wrong, the wrong type of energy for that role, for example, if they're more data driven as opposed to people driven, you know, then they're still hiring those people and it's still the wrong kind of process. So one of the things that we really want to kind of normalize is this profiling. So profiling, you know, I've worked with over 5,000 clients. You've worked with thousands and thousands of, you know, clients on profiling. I've even saved a marriage before. I had someone, you know, stand up and be like, I just want to thank Daniel because he saved my marriage. And the question was, why? It's like, because I now understand that, you know, how to talk to my partner, how to best out of him. And it's as simple as that. It's not something complicated. And it's not about, you know, there's this misconception that it's putting people in a box, but it really is about, you know, taking them out the box. If you apply it in that methodology, like how are you, like when you talk about some of your clients, like how are they using, like how are you helping them with profiling, etc. within their current teams, and what results have you currently seen?
Yeah, so I use profiling a lot. I think it's really useful, and there's a huge amount of different ones on the market. But what I think I use it for two, for individually for people to figure out what's the impact and contribution they're making to a role. So
Right.
they really understand how they fit into the organization. And then when we're building teams, it's about how do we get the right people on the team at the right time? Because all too often we say, for example, and I've got no qualms against accountants and people in the finance team, but let's just take, we say the finance team, they've got to come up with a new process and system. Well, a lot of those people are really data driven. They're not ideas people to come out of the box and come up with new ideas. So we need to create a team that's got some people on that are ideas driven, some people that are able to create a strategy. So to take these ideas and put them into plans for people. And of course, we need people to do it, and then people to continually make the products and services better, as well as people to galvanize the team. So it's about having that information to build the right team at the right time for what we need in the business. Because otherwise, we put the wrong people on the team, we don't get the results.
And you blame,
So that's really important. Yeah. Sorry.
no, I'm saying, and then you blame the people, right? They're not doing their job.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's another layer to this, which is you've got your base kind of employment. And this is my recommendation to anybody that's building a team or whatever it is that, you know, get the base skill. But then if you're expecting data-driven people to come up with new processes or new ideas, create a project team that includes other profiles that
Yeah.
are more, as you say, ideas-driven, because every problem that data person says, oh, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, they're going to go, yes, but you can do that, and you can do this, and you could do this. And it's going to be a complete, you know, change of kind of energy as well.
And what I love about this concept as well, if we think about it, is also how that relates to, you know, project cycles, business cycles. You know, we need the right people in the right places at the right time. So, you know, I didn't know about profiling when I was in the corporate world, but I set up and run my own business unit. And you and I both share a similar profile on wealth dynamics and we're creators. I didn't know that at the time. So I love coming up with new ideas, and I love doing that with my clients as well. But I was running this business unit. I set it up. It was going really well. But then it got to a maturity stage. And I went from kind of being the golden girl to not being so successful. And I couldn't understand why. And once I understood wealth dynamics, I was like, okay, because I like to come up with new ideas. And that explained why I was spending all my time moving my business into different verticals like health clubs from hotels. And then we were looking at gaming and other verticals, because that's where my skill set lied. It didn't lie in managing the day-to-day operations of the business. So it's also really important that we have the right leaders in place at the right time, as well as within teams as well, depending on where the business is in the life cycle.
And I mean, this is exactly why I built Team App, because this current process, you know, it's $1 billion industry, this coaching and profiling industry. Some of the biggest names in the market are making millions and millions a year selling their stuff. They haven't changed anything in 20 years. They don't need to, because they've got such a monopoly on it. But what's interesting about what we want to do at Team App is build this aggregator that allows, you know, the individual to go through a quiz process or personalization process, so that our app can then understand more about them and share with them what tools we would recommend they can use. And that would be either for themselves or their team, or, you know, and keep it, as you talked about, vertical. Like every time, right now, what happens in the market is that every time somebody builds a team and they want to use profiling, they've got to hire a coach, they've got to go through the testing process, they've got to then get information, they've got to get these PDF documents. It's a very, like, there's no, it's very easy to understand why this is not something that's involved in everyday business. So my whole argument with this is like, well, let's create something that allows a business owner, a team leader, an HR manager, you know, a line manager, whatever it is, to understand their team by having it live in that moment, where they can, you know, chop and change their team and see what their results are and what their overall kind of focus is going to be, where they're going to fail and where they're going to succeed. So I really love this, and I know we're doing a lot of work on, you know, Team App together as we go forward. And it's just, for me, it's such an exciting time to give people the knowledge and the information, like give everybody this knowledge. No longer should it be just up to the HR manager to be like, okay, we're going to profile people. No, it's like, you as a team member, if you're listening to this and you're part of a team, like, you need to go to your boss and say, we should be all profiled. We should apply this to our business. It's going to change. So it's not just the business owner telling everybody what to do, it's the whole ecosystem evolving and everybody moving in the same direction, as you were, referring to
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, we know, like you said, your example of saving a marriage, we know that when everyone understands a bit more about each other and what drives each other, we know how to communicate more effectively. We get rid of a lot of conflict in the business, in business, because we understand, oh, well, that's why that person doesn't give me their metrics. The sales manager doesn't provide their metrics each month.
Yeah.
Well, because it's not their thing to do. They're more about people and getting out. And for them to actually go and pull their metrics together, it takes them a lot of time and energy to do that, because it's not high on their list of priorities. So how is we, if the person who needs that data from that person, how can we support them to get that information to us? It totally improves collaboration within an organization when we all understand how the drivers of everyone and how we can work together more effectively.
Jules, this has been such an amazing conversation, and I love talking to you about profiling. And we can talk about this for days, years, months.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's definitely some workshops and things that we'll be doing on the horizon, just to really kind of not just raise awareness, but also give people really clear next steps that they can take in applying this in their businesses. So thank you so much for being a guest of mine today. But I want to do one last thing, which is my just a little bit of a fun thing, which is a quick fire word association. So I haven't told you this, obviously. Thank you to CPT for providing them, but I'm going to throw out a bunch of words at you, and just give me the first word that comes to mind. We'll do it for 10 seconds, and hopefully you don't you don't put yourself in a bucket. But here we go. Are you ready?
Thanks.
All right, let's go. Peace.
Harmony.
Grow.
Flourish.
Trust.
Sales.
Travel.
Adventure.
Love.
Hate.
Team.
Fabulous.
Politics. I tend to always finish on that one now, because everybody has the same response. It's like nobody likes politics, but Oh my goodness. Jules, thank you so much for being a guest today.
You're so welcome.
Do reach out to Jules. She'll be tagged on this as well. Do follow us, subscribe. Do share this with people that you think we can, really help to just create more awareness and start to really improve the happiness score as a concept and a general feel. So, Jules, thank you so much. Have a great day. And
so welcome. Thank you so much.
See you in the next video, everyone.